Hi, if you like the video, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It really helps me out, and also, comment about a time where you have sold your best player in Football Manager and how did that work out for you. Please enjoy the video. Knowing when to sell your biggest players in Football Manager is probably one of the hardest things you'll do in the game, and I recently had to decide this with my personal save at Asker in Norway. So how did I make that decision? Well, stick around and we'll have a look at it. The player in question is Victor Boriseko. He was the best player in my team by far. We got him for £14,000, which is nothing. And if we take a look at these stats, he has 16 dribbling, he has 16 first touch, and his passing is brilliant. It's the perfect deep lying forward, which is super important in my team. When I finally sold him, I sold him to Sevilla for £10 million, which is more than most budgets, like entire budgets in the real Norwegian Premier League. And he was so talented and so young, still only 18. How did I make that decision? To sell such a young and talented player who would have been best in the league and best on my team? Well, there's a couple of reasons why. If we jump right into our finances, you can see that we are 3.5 million in the red, which is so much for a club like mine. As I said, most clubs don't even have £10 million in the yearly budget. I've sat in the middle of the league for years and years after going up twice from the 30th. And the prize money is poor. It's under £1 million a year. For a middle table finish, our wage budget is only £3 million and just a couple of 100,000 for a transfer budget. This should tell you how deep in financial trouble we are. And this is why we haven't been able to keep our best players for a while, actually. But we could have kept this guy, Victor Boriseko, and in a while he could have helped us push for that Europe spot. This should tell you how deep in trouble we are financially. And that's why we haven't been able to keep our players, our best players, for a while. There's a huge turnover in staff and in players, just because we can't afford them. With a bit more time and a bit more money, this problem could have resolved itself, because we do have very good and talented young players. These talents are not quite ready for first team play, but they're getting there. We also want to bump up the cohesion in the team, because that's been poor for a long time because of the turnover. The last reason why we did this is because of another young talented striker we have from Cyprus, Christo, who is about the same type of player as Victor Boriseko. He seems to score a lot more goals, and he's a bit worse at dribbling, but he's largely the perfect deep lying forward as well, just not as good. All these things made the £10 million transfer, record-shattering by the way, secured us financially for a while, short term. It saved us from selling 3 to 5 first-team players and starting the process all over again. And so, even if the stars aligned like this, it's still a very hard decision, because I know in 2 or 3 years, I could have sold him for double, or even triple maybe. So, when is it a good decision? Well, it's really subjective. I know that's not what you want to hear, but you have to come up with some criteria for when it's right. It's right when it secures your team financially. It's right when you can afford to, or already can, replace it. And it is right if it helps you push to get more money later. That last one is always a bit of a gamble, but really the whole package is that you have to decide if it's good for the long term of the club. Both financially and the players you can bring in and all that good stuff. And then we can invest a lot of that money in training facilities, in youth facilities, stuff like that. But until then, Boriseko has saved the club for the short term. And it will bring us success long term. That brings us to the question, when is it not right? Well, when it's not for the long term success of the club. And that would be if your player is so important that your team will crumble without it. There is a story I have from about 10 years ago where I made that mistake. And I was playing Football Manager 2011. We were dominating the Champions League because I've played like 15 seasons at the same club and I've amassed such wealth that I could get the best players. But one particular player that I had was super important and he was the best player. So I sold him thinking, I could get a new talent from this. I could get wonderkids. And don't we all love a wonderkid? And after signing said wonderkid, I collapsed. I didn't get out of the group stages in the Champions League. And I didn't even win the domestic league. And so my team crumbled. And I lost all motivation to play because I didn't win the league. I didn't get to the final stages in the Champions League, which I've won 5 years in a row. I would at least want to get to the semi-finals, you know? But that's it. That's the harm you can do. So the answer to the question, when should I sell my best player? You need to be able to replace him in your team. If selling your best player can land you another one close to his caliber and 5 more talents, do it. Yes, you can do it. But just make sure that it's for the long-term success of the club. Not just because the money is shiny, because I've made that mistake as well.